Ben Smith, thanks for popping on the pod real quick.
Yes, fun to pop. Thank you for having me.
So I know you're not going to tell me who it was that gave you access to the various group chats that you mentioned in the piece, but I'm curious what you thought the motivation was for people to share with you the existence of chats like this.
Well, I had a couple of leaked screenshots. Honestly, not that much, because they use disappearing messages. And but I was actually surprised how many people were willing to talk to me on the record or kind of in great detail on background about these chats. That have been a huge. But I think it's been a huge part of the lives of lots of powerful people and not powerful people who are, shaping American culture over the last 5 years. And I think people feel proud about them. They feel honestly like really sentimental. Like I think everybody realizes that it's an era that's sort of coming to a close, partly as Trump really divides this community. And I think a lot of them look back at this having been, one of them described it to me as the Republic of Letters. A lot of them invoke Parisian salons. I do think the Parisian salons were probably more fun.
Well, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. Like you mentioned Journalist, which was sort of like a left-wing sort of news serve from like 15 years ago.
Center
left.
Right.
And so one of the things that I was thinking about is these things never stay secret forever. But also, and I'm going to push back a bit, I kind of feel like these things are everywhere. I don't know that this is coming to an end. Like, in a way, you could say this is sort of like that astronaut always has been meme. But I find it, and I find it funny how surprised people in North America are that these group chats exist, because I feel like in Europe they've had entire governments brought down by group chat scandals for years. But I feel like this is the mode for powerful people to commiserate these days.
Oh, for sure. I don't mean the group chats or group chats among powerful people coming from in. This specific network of sort of center-right, anti-woke, pro-Trump chats is coming to an end because about half the people in them are no longer pro-Trump and are like, wait a second, how did I get into this kind of groupthink world where I got it, and so there's these bitter disagreements now, which are not where, so the groupthink is sort of shattering. No, I think that there have always been these kind of inside conversations, whether it was like the boys on the bus or letters in the 17th century or group chats. Now, I do think disappearing messages, I do think real privacy makes a difference, actually. Like, I think what's so interesting about doing this story is that virtually none of this is preserved. And I think that's basically a good thing. It's spoken. It has a little more the character of spoken conversation than this sort of weird era we've had in which every stray thought has been documented forever.
Right, and like that's what I'm saying. Like if somebody listening to this, your CEO has a group chat that you don't know about. Like we've heard whispers for years that like the C-suite at major tech companies have completely exclusive lockdown messaging systems. I even remember interviewing somebody about a company once where they're like, all of the real stuff goes down on like a CC email thread that's been running for years because the CEO only uses email to do work.
Totally.
But like the idea that Signal and these sorts of group chats, like it's not just the Signalgate stuff. Like this is where increasingly like a level of powerful or famous person, they feel they need this sort of space for themselves.
Yeah, but yes, that's certainly true. And Signalgate was just a reflection of the fact that they're all in Signal all the time,
right?
Shooting emojis at each other. I do think that sort of period after 2020 when social media was really hot and very progressive chased a lot of people who disagreed and were scared to disagree into more private spaces. But one of the people who's in these big group chat, one of the big group chats said to me that was so interesting was that now the thing that you're afraid to express online is criticism of Donald Trump, and that the people who are critical of Trump in the group chats are keeping that in the group chat because they don't want professional or other consequences for criticizing Trump.
One of the things that I think Silicon Valley folks will recognize reading between the lines of your piece is sort of this is where things come from. Like, I'm thinking about like group chats for VCs and stuff like that, especially investing as a very group think sort of activity. But like, I remember that whole Silicon Valley Bank weekend. Like if looking at it from the outside, it's like, how come everybody always suddenly woke up and was on the same page freaking out? It's because of chats like this. Like from the outside, Lex Fridman or Dwarkesh Patel seemingly comes out of nowhere, but suddenly can get interviews with the most powerful people in the Valley. It's these group chats. It's sort of this community.
No, they literally were the vehicle for a bank run.
Right.
Which is the ultimate kind of herd mentality groupthink thing. And I think that's to me, that's the danger of them, that you can really wind up in these bubbles and also wind up with this feeling. And I was a journalist, and I'm kind of the center, wasn't really partisan, but felt it a little. We're like, oh, these are my friends and they're on my team. And so we're going to work out our disagreements, and we can have honest and open disagreements inside. But on the outside, we are, and I never felt this exactly, but felt the pull. We are rabid partisans who defend each other to the death. And actually, Balaji Srinivasan and Joe Lonsdale had a totally normal argument that I quote in the piece. And when I reached out to them for comment, they went bananas on Twitter and on X and swore that they were friends forever and no disagreement in private could possibly tear them apart in public, which she was kind of symptomatic of that. Like, wait, you're not allowed to have everything you say in public is just you're just sort of out there brigading, and the things you say in private are real. Like, I don't think that's super healthy.
Well, that's the other thing that I wanted to point out, like reading between the lines. It's sort of like this is how social media operates for the other half. Like, you talk about these group chats like coming and going, like instead of social media where you have like this public history and this audience that follows you around and like you have content and takes for them. But then for these private chats, it's sort of like that Stefan sketch from SNL. Like when you get invited to a new one of these, it's like, oh, the cool kids have found me again. And it's like really active for a few months, but then it can kind of fade. And then you get invited to a new one. And it's almost like changing personas or like changing high schools, so that it's social media where you can reinvent yourself when you get in the next like sort of cool kid group like this.
Totally. And it has all of the sort of seductions of this kind of access to power. Like lots of my friends and sources who run them, I remember for years would be like, I can't believe this, but like Mark Andreessen is blowing up my phone. Like that is kind of cool. Mm-hmm. But there is also, something I have found in this moment of this kind of maximal transparency and dysfunction is that used to be if you were a powerful person, you knew things and had secrets that other people didn't know or have. And now it's like you get into like the sanctum sanctorum of the people who like behind the final door of the most powerful and important people who know everything. And it turns out they're just like talking about some tweet from 3 days ago that like is the same thing that like the dads at your barbecue were talking about. Like there's this strange flattening.
Right.
And like a lot of what they're doing in these group chats is, oh my God, did you see this tweet? And you should tweet that. Like those are the two main conversations.
Last question real quick. You mentioned Srinivasan and Lonsdale and their reaction online, but what's been the other reaction to some of the folks that are on these chats? If you've heard,
honestly, I did not expect this, but like it's been incredible. I've been very pleased that a lot of them have been texting and emailing me and saying, hey, like you actually got the vibe of this basically right. So that's always a nice thing to hear after you write a story.
Indeed. The story, as I mentioned, is at the bottom of today's show notes. Ben Smith from Semafor. You have a great podcast as well, so wanted to give you a chance to mention that.
Yes, please check out. If you're interested in all things media kind of writ large, please check out Mixed Signals from Semafor Media.